It's not just your teeth chattering. There's also a lot of chattering about the portal.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. I'll tell you about Game Time here in just a little bit. I'll also tell you about FanDuel. Thank you, everydayers, for being here every day, and thank you, newbies, for being here today. And last night I went to a Christmas party for Service First Bank and saw several people that said they watched the program. Nice. And I would mention you all, but I have forgotten some of you because I have a terrible memory and I'm also sick. So I'm sorry. I love you all. Please don't think I don't. Please come up to me anytime, or Jimmy. Really, Jimmy likes it when y'all just put your hands on his face. If y'all just come and go, I love you, Jimmy.
Well, I'm a healer. Not many people know that about me.
Okay, so let's talk some portal stuff, Jimmy.
Hey, we're top 200 iTunes. We should mention that. We
were top 200 iTunes this week. Now, I mean, I don't know how often they do.
What's a thank you to everyone that listens. Luke, our little show here, top 200 most listened to sports podcasts in the U.S.
The lone bright spot to Alabama not doing well in something, especially in football, is that people listen to us to hate listen.
We get a lot of hate listens. We do. We might get hate listens from our own fans, but we definitely get them from other places. But we probably get them from our own fans. But yes, when something doesn't go well, our numbers go up.
Man, those hate listens.
They're like, those Locked On guys will probably cry. So let's go listen to that. That's delicious.
The irony on that is it didn't have to be something bad for Alabama to cry. I'm pretty sensitive. Okay. So Jimmy, let's talk about the portal some more. I mean, you got your regulars in there. You got Kelby Collins that is officially in the portal now. I think he tweeted that yesterday. He really hadn't been in the portal, but I think he just got in.
These kids all announce their intentions. Portal didn't open on Monday, and people started announcing last week. And just the thing that people say is, hey, he's in the portal. But literally, the portal didn't even open till Monday, and then people just kind of take their time getting in. And for a while, and by the way, I think you send an email to the administration. You send an email to the administration, then they put it in. I think it's not like you're putting it in or something, but I'm just saying that it can take a hot minute. So Kelby was in Tuesday.
So Kelby's in now, and he'll be visiting Alabama, and we expect him to end up in Alabama, right? I mean, that's
our projection. Yeah. That's our projection, or a high level of optimism at BOL.
Casey Concepcion, also in the portal, also visiting Alabama, apparently has canceled a Texas A&M visit. I feel very good about him not leaving Tuscaloosa without being committed to Alabama. I feel good about that. I'm not predicting it. I just feel good about it.
Yeah, we're not saying less optimistic. We don't have a prediction yet at BOL on Concepcion. We just feel optimistic.
Now, here's another name to keep an eye on, and this comes from your main man over at BOL, Tim Watts. Yeah. Arkansas interior offensive lineman Patrick Kutas, Kutas.
I butchered a pronunciation the other day, so now I'm skittish about the whole thing. I know that this guy has been a starter at Arkansas, but I know so little about him. I just know he's in their starting lineup, so that's super interesting. I think he's an interior lineman, though I believe he's also played right tackle in his time at Arkansas. Yeah. I think people don't need to. It's like recruiting. Get asked all the time, hey, we need a right tackle. We must be interested in this guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the who. It's not, gosh, we really need an interior lineman. It's, hey, there's a starter at Arkansas that's in the portal and he likes Alabama. Maybe we should watch the film. And then you watch the film and you're like, I don't really need that. I'll give you all a good example now that it's gone. Jahmyr Gibbs. We didn't need a running back that year. As a matter of fact, I got on pretty good authority when it was first broached to Nick Saban. He's like, we don't need a running back. And then they're like, yeah, you remember Gibbs? Yeah. Let's watch the film. And then Nick watched the film and he's like, we got to have this guy. And it's a good thing we did, right? Well, I think it's the same thing at so many other positions. It's like, it's the who. It's not the how many you want at a certain position. It's not the, we got to have a right time. It's, we don't need a running back. And then the next thing you know, someone's available, and you're like, well, we don't need a running back, but we need him. So I think so when people were like, and I'm saying all this because I read speculation when Tim put out his info there that we're interested in this guy and he's interested in us. Some people immediately jumped to the conclusion that Jaden Roberts was leaving.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's completely unrelated. I think it's the who. We didn't know we'd get a guy like that. And as my buddy Blake Byler pointed out very smartly, look how much Geno Vandermark played. He was brought in to be a reserve player, and he ended up basically being a 50-50 starter because he had to share so much time with Jaden when Jaden became hurt. So bringing in, would you rather have a freshman that has zero experience as the top backup or a guy who's started SEC games? So that's why you're interested in a guy like him. It's not just because there's a hole in the starting lineup.
Well, if Travis Hunter, I know we all know he's going pro, he's probably going to the Heisman, but if he got in the transfer portal and you look at our defensive backs, you're like, man, we got a bunch of young defensive backs. Aren't you scared someone will leave? I'd be like, for Travis Hunter, you take that chance.
Right. 5 of them can leave.
The same thing with Gibbs. Tell you what, it brings up an interesting. I love Jahmyr Gibbs, but
sure,
it's one of those things where every time I think about Jahmyr Gibbs, I think about his long runs against Arkansas, those 270-something yard runs, which are awesome. But there are some times when I think about Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm like, if he just caught that pass against Tennessee.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
that makes me sick.
Yeah, I know that is what drives me nuts is when I see. I'm not defending O'Brien. I don't feel like defending any Alabama coaches today, but when I see. It's a common thing I see on Twitter. When Gibbs does something good, someone says, Bill O'Brien committed coaching malpractice at Alabama. And I'm like, Jahmyr Gibbs was our leading rusher. He got the most carries of any back. He got the most receptions of any skill player.
Yeah.
He got the ball more than anyone else on that team by far. What did they want Bill O'Brien to do? He was the featured player of the offense. And the best player was the quarterback. So we're going to throw the ball. And we threw it to Gibbs more than anyone else. Anyway, I don't understand the levels of the Bill O'Brien hate. And by the way, when he was the offensive coordinator for 2 years, only Ohio State scored more points than he did, you know. But anyway.
Okay. Glad that's how you talk about how our conversations devolve into something that didn't start out that way. But so Patrick Kudus out there, I'm with you. I'd take him in a heartbeat. Look, he was a 2-year starter at Arkansas. Then he played 4 games this past year, but he got hurt. So this can count as his red shirt. Originally from Memphis, he's at Ole Miss right now, and Ole Miss is Ole Miss is portal U, so they're going to take a big swing at him. But
they are. Sam Pittman's also a great offensive line coach. He's the head coach. So I trust Sam Pittman's evaluations and the coaching that goes on at Arkansas at that position. It's Sam Pittman. Yeah,
Sam Pittman it is. And, I kind of don't blame him for leaving Arkansas. And look at Arkansas, and they've got a bunch of mess in the portal.
They're a mess.
Why is it so bad?
Because I think this is what happens when the coach is squarely on the hot seat. When the fans, whether it's the administration or not, when a coach is squarely on the hot seat, kids don't want to be there because they don't know who the coach is going to be. They might like Sam. They might like, well, I like Sam, but I don't know who the next coach is going to be. And they're wanting to run him out. They're clearly running him out. I read the internet. They're clearly running him out. And I think this is what happens when the fans have moved on to the next coach, when all the discussion isn't about should we fire Sam, the discussion is who's going to be the next guy. So the kids leave. They want to know who their coach is going to be.
It does sort of, this just popped into my head. Gus Malzahn left Central Florida to go be the offensive coordinator at Florida State. Sam Pittman gets 1 more year, and then Gus Malzahn comes in and takes over. Is that so nutty to think about?
No, it's not nutty at all. As a matter of fact, it's very smart of Gus, because Gus may have gotten out right before the posse came to get him at Central Florida. He might have quit about a week before he was fired. And now, and since he wasn't fired, it's kind of easier to get the next head coaching job, right? And how about this? Here's a little, I don't mean to scare Alabama fans, because I feel really good about what's going to happen, but Florida State hires Gus. Now they take Thomas Castellanos out of the portal. the kid from Boston College. So that's going to be their starter, and that's who Gus is coaching. And you know who that kid is similar to? Nick Marshall. I mean, he's a Nick Marshall type, because
Marshall is probably, I don't know, 10 times as fast.
You say that, and he might be. And Nick Marshall was more of a pro wide receiver prospect, but Castellanos, if he plays in the NFL, it's going to be at another position. He's
Agreed.
not. He's a runner before he's a thrower. I just think that Castellanos is going to run an offense extremely similar to what Alabama struggled with when Gus was at Auburn. Now it's different. The world's a different place.
We struggled with it under the old regime too, and now we have a newer regime.
Exactly.
I mean, and Womack has really improved for all the hate he took early. He's really improved. We're going to go ahead and take a break and come back and talk about some things a former Saban player had to say about Jalen Milroe. But now I want to tell you about Game Time. And if I ever find this overlay, y'all can't wait to hear all the stuff I'm going to say about him. And there it is. Game Time. Game Time is where you want to go to get best tickets for any game. I mean, what if you're going to Alabama Creighton this weekend and you're like, man, I don't have any tickets. I listen to Locked On Bama all the time. All I got to do is use promo code Locked On College, download the Game Time app. I get $20 off that purchase. Can you believe it? No, I can't. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I got a funny story about the word unbelievable. I'll tell you after this break. But go check out Game Time today. You will absolutely love it. It is so much fun. You can see where you're going to sit. You can use promo code Locked On College, get $20 off your first order. I've used Game Time for everything, for World Series tickets for my son, for college football, college baseball, Major League Baseball, pro basketball, pro football, anything, college basketball. I've used it for everything, and I love it. I'm not lying to y'all. It's right here on my phone. I'm not going to pick up my phone because I'm lazy, but I promise you it's on my phone. Y'all have seen it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't test me on that. Just go get Game Time and tell me thank you later. I'm going to get into Damien Harris's comments about Milroe, but I do want to tell you a funny story about the word unbelievable. I have a friend, an older friend who, and I'm not giving any names, but he apparently says, he does. He says unbelievable all the time about everything. You know, you got one of those friends who always goes, that's amazing. Well, if everything's amazing, nothing's amazing. You know, if everything's unbelievable, nothing's unbelievable. And this just ties back into him. But the funny story has nothing to do with the word unbelievable. But we were all having lunch.
What word is this story about?
I used to be in this big group of this like grown men fraternity thing in Ellick City, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, I saw that movie, Old School. Yeah,
it was kind of old school. And this guy would come to lunch occasionally, and somebody was telling a story, and it went sort of like this, where the guy was like, "Look, y'all, I ain't gonna believe this. You know, in little town Ellick City, I saw this woman. She had to be from Birmingham or Atlanta. She was unbelievable. She had the best body I've ever seen on a woman. She's wearing one of those yoga outfits. It was incredible. And she was just walking her dogs and out in broad daylight, and everything was, you know, you could see just about everything. It was like she was wearing nothing at all. She was just amazing to look at. She was so good looking. Never seen anybody like it. There she is, just walking her dogs downtown Ellick City. And everybody goes, wow, that's great. I mean, tell us some more. And my friend goes, what kind of dog was it? And everybody was like, nobody cares about the dog. Shut up about the dogs. Don't ever say that again. So anyway.
What kind of dog was it?
I mean, like, nobody even thought about the dog. But anyway, okay. So
that story is unbelievable.
I'll tell the other one maybe in the third break. It is pretty funny.
When we started off the show by saying, boy, there's no telling where our shows go. Can you believe these subjects we get off on? Let me tell you all a story about the word unbelievable. And then it ends up being about a dog.
It ends up being about nothing about it. So, but anyway, Damien Harris.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, look, Damien Harris has gone to work for CBS. If you remember, he was going to work for the Alabama radio crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Damien Harris has come out and said, you know, look, he doesn't think Jalen Milroe, not only does he not think Jalen Milroe is ready to go pro, I'm reading the quote right here. I don't think you should go to the NFL draft, meaning to Milroe, because I don't think he's ready. Now, why did he say, I don't think you should go to the NFL draft because I don't think he's ready? Anyway, Doesn't matter. Said former Alabama running back Damien Harris about Milroe on the Until Saturday podcast via CBS Sports. I think he should hit the transfer portal, go somewhere, get a fresh start, because I don't think this marriage between him and Kalen DeBoer, it doesn't look like it's working. Not for either person. Not saying it's either party's fault, just sometimes relationships don't work. Okay, Jimmy, off air, you and I were talking about this, and it's like, Milroe went 9-3, and he went, I guess, 11-2 last year. Won the SEC last year. For all the heck he's taken from our fan base, and even from me once this year during the Oklahoma game, because my argument was we need to sit him to get a spark, and you don't get a spark by changing punters. You get a spark by changing quarterbacks. It's not guaranteed, but it could help. Let's see what happens. But it never happened. Okay, so be it. And Oklahoma beat our brains in. We admit that. But boy, I find that to be extraordinarily cutting. If that came from a former Alabama player under the Perkins era who had been in the media for a long time, I get it. Coming from a dude who's he hadn't been gone from Alabama, 7 years?
7 seasons about, yeah. I
Okay.
think 16 was his last
year. It seems a little is too soon for Damien Harris to say that. Now, I love Damien Harris. I love him. We talked about it on this program forever.
18
we also
was
love
last
the fact,
year. 18. 2018 was his last year.
Yeah, and so I mean it's right at 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean it's plus or minus. Okay. So but my point is, boy, I don't know. Yes, I get where he's going. No, I wish he hadn't said it because I feel like it's too soon for him to say it. Not that he shouldn't have his own opinions. I don't know. I could just see where Milroe would take that as a bit insulting.
Yeah, I bet he does.
And if Milroe's not playing college football next year, if Milroe is playing college football next year, I think I would like for it to be at Alabama. I get where Damien Harris is going. I do. I see the record notwithstanding, you can see that some things that DeBoer probably wants to do, Milroe can't do. But Milroe's great in his own way. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I just don't know what to think about these comments yet.
I think the comments are really incendiary. And at first when I read them, I'm like, uh-oh. But if you parcel them apart, first of all, I don't disagree with the idea that Milroe could use some more time in college as a college quarterback. I think there are some things that Milroe can work on that improves his game, and he can improve that at the college level. And mostly what I'm talking about is pre-snap reads and post-snap reads. I think that's a thing with him, and I think that can improve the more you play. And once he goes to the NFL, I don't know how often he's going to play, especially initially. So I don't even think that's too controversial myself in terms of, nor do I think it's insulting to tell a college quarterback, I think you could improve if you stay another year in college. And when you come out to the NFL, you need to have your game, you only get drafted once, and you want to get drafted as high as possible because that's the investment the organization makes in you. I don't disagree that Milroe could use another year. Now I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe Jalen Milroe is going to go to the NFL, and nothing what we say here and nothing what Damien Harris said is going to change a thing. I think he's going to the NFL, and I think that's what I believe. But I don't think that's controversial. The controversial part is this isn't working.
Yeah,
I don't think that Milroe believes that. I don't believe that Milroe believes that. I don't believe that DeBoer believes that myself. And I think people make too much of, gosh, when he had Penix, he threw it all over the place. And now he's got Milroe and all they do is run the ball. Well, he's trying to play to their strengths. And again, I mentioned this on Blue in the Face, and it's like no one listens. Michael Penix was a 6th-year starter, a 6-year starting for his 6th different year. Of course he threw the ball out. Now, what would Milroe look like if he played college another 2 years? So I think that comparison's just weird. The only quarterback out there you can compare to Penix is Jaden Daniels, because they're the only two out there that started game. Jaden started for 5 years. Penix started for 6 years because of injury and COVID and everything else. But
it should be noted that Mel Kiper put out maybe 4 or 5 days ago, put out his top quarterbacks, and Jalen Milroe was number 3. Available for the draft.
And that's pretty consensus, but it's way too early for people to like he's going to be the third quarterback taken. I don't think that dissection has really happened yet, but it shows that Milroe's in a good spot heading into the pre-draft process. And then from here, it'll be up to him. But this is what I think. I think we'll see Milroe in like the Senior Bowl. I think we'll see Milroe at the Combine. He's going to be a workout guy for sure. And those things will dictate. That Senior Bowl week for him is huge. I think in the Senior Bowl, if he goes to Senior Bowl, he cements himself in that number 3 spot behind Shedeur and Cam Ward. Hard to believe they're going to be rooted out of 1 and 2, but we'll see. But I think Milroe could cement himself as the number 3 quarterback at the Senior Bowl, or it doesn't go well at all and he tumbles because he's throwing side by side with other guys that are going in this draft. Though I doubt we see Shedeur and Cam at the Senior Bowl. I think they'll go in with such high grades, their agents will tell them not to do it. But I'm excited to see what happens with Milroe in the pre-draft process. But at the same time, I sort of agree with Damien on the first half of his controversial quote. I think Jalen could use another year in college because he can improve. He clearly has deficiencies. We all know that. A lot of y'all listening out there, are really big talking about Milroe's deficiencies all the time. He does have deficiencies, and that can be improved by playing more and seeing more college football. So I don't disagree with that, but I do disagree with Damien shouldn't say something that loud about Alabama. I think his words carry more weight, and I think they can be hurtful to Jalen.
Going to tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 150 smacks in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book and official partner of the NFL. Just to say I'm not a liar. So the other story was this same friend who does say unbelievable a lot. It got to the point wherever me and some of my other friends hear unbelievable from anywhere else, then we go, I'm not going to say his name. We go, Joe Smith called, because
unbelievable.
And so the Alabama Ole Miss game 2014, when we returned the fumble for a touchdown, and I think Gary Dennison goes, "That's unbelievable." And I said, a friend of mine that was at the game at my house with me and my parents, he said, "Well, Joe Smith called." And my mom, who may have had about 9 wines, says, "What did he want?" Like, we're like, "Did you hear a phone?"
She didn't get the joke.
Yeah, she didn't get any. She wasn't in on it. So she's like, "What is he calling you now for?" So so now we go, whenever we hear the word unbelievable from anybody, me and this small group of friends go, "Joe Smith called. What did he want?" Like, that's the unbelievable story. All right.
That story is unbelievable.
So the Alabama schedule has been released, and we're going to put it up here. And I don't know how to make it full screen, so y'all.
That's last year's schedule.
You can see a lot of that is last year's schedule.
That's 20.
Oh, God, it's even worse than I thought.
But frankly, you could leave it up because there's not much difference. It's the same. It's literally almost the same schedule. Obviously.
People are going to think I did that on purpose too, Jimmy. I was so proud that I found an image of the schedule and I put it up. I was so proud. Y'all are going to think I did that on purpose. I didn't.
He didn't do that on purpose.
I wouldn't have. Jimmy and I were talking about it. Is your house on fire? I heard an alarm.
Yeah, I was listening to that too. No, it's not. And the weird thing, it's not my house.
Oh my God, I can't believe that. All right. So let's just go back to. That's so dumb. I cannot believe I did that. All right. And I'm not editing it.
Well, the funny thing is the schedule hasn't changed much. I mean, that's the thing. You could almost left last year's up. I mean, there's 3 non-conference games to start the year and then an off week. Does that sound familiar? 3 non-conference games, then the off week, then Georgia. And the SEC games are really in basically the same order that we played them this year, with one difference.
Right after Georgia.
Yeah.
And
there's very little difference. We played South Carolina. I think they switched.
South Carolina or flip-flop.
They kind of flip-flop South Carolina, Missouri. And then at the end, this year we played the FCS school, then Oklahoma, and then Auburn. Next year we play Oklahoma, then the FCS school in Auburn. So we're back to playing the FCS game before the Auburn game. But we have off weeks before Georgia and LSU, just like this year. So it's extremely similar for those unaware for scheduling next year. The agreement was you were playing the same, everybody in the league's playing the same teams you played in 2024. You're just flip-flopping home and away.
We screwed up there. The SEC screwed up. I'll tell you something. The Big Ten figured something out. Why face our juggernauts against one another? Ohio State doesn't play Oregon next year, which is this is what I'm talking about. When people got on to me the other day talking about how, hey, Alabama doesn't need schedule tough anymore. Don't do it, because the SEC's tough enough. They're like, oh, well, you lost to 3 conference teams. I get that. We understand that. But what I'm saying is the goal is to get your schedule to the 60th in the country, because that is at least the floor for where it can be, because that's what SMU was, or plus or minus there. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, Oregon, Ohio State should be a no-brainer for the Big Ten. It's awesome football. It's awesome for us fans. And it doesn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because the Big Ten figured out, hey, we don't need to pit them together. We get better. It'll be better for us if they don't play, and that way they probably both get in. And Oregon's schedule is bunk next year, by the way. Ohio State's isn't great. They got Texas at home and Michigan, and that's about it.
All the schedule manipulation, it's what it is, a schedule manipulation. Alabama's talking about doing it, and I get it. I mean, everyone should do that, looking out for themselves. But it's leading towards something that I've been 100% against, and now I'm 100% for. Yeah. And that is, there's got to be guaranteed spots for the SEC and the Big Ten and the playoff, so we don't have all this schedule manipulation. Just say, SEC, don't worry about it. You're getting 4 teams in. Big Ten, don't worry, you're getting 4 teams in. Now, y'all figure out how to get. Yeah, I did see the Josh Pate thing, and that's not where I'm getting this, but in part, I'm agreeing with Josh that that's where this is going, because it's just the best solution to this crappy problem, and that's guaranteed. Now, I didn't want to guarantee spots. That's so it feels very participation trophy-ish to guarantee the spots. But if you don't guarantee the spots, all you're going to have is what Luke's talking about, schedule manipulation, whereas the SEC and the Big Ten figure out how, hey, we don't need all our best teams with losses, so let's figure out how to make them undefeated, because that seems to be all the committee cares about.
It's very rare to me that the SEC gets outsmarted. They were outsmarted. Because the SEC, I think, they came up with this thing about, hey, we're going to make sure we play somebody from another Power 5 comp, or Power 4 conference or whatever. And, they put all these schedules together. Georgia's conference schedule, while a lot of them are at home, is still very difficult. Alabama's certainly very difficult. And we're going to also, Alabama's playing Florida State and Wisconsin. And I hated when people were coming at me like, oh, your non-conference was so easy. I mean, Wisconsin was 5-7. It wasn't like we scheduled Wisconsin knowing they were going to be 5-7. By the way, Oregon only beat them 16-13.
Yeah, so, they barely beat. I mean, Penn State barely beat them too. Wisconsin is a legit Power 4 opponent. And the time they were scheduled, they were annually 9-3 at the time they were scheduled. When we scheduled Florida State, do we think they'd be 2-10 the year before? I mean, Florida State's never 2-10. That's why they were scheduled, because they're good. They just happen not to be. But again, Alabama can't control who they play conference-wise. They can only control who they play non-conference-wise. And like Luke said, and since the conference schedule is going to be so hard, it only makes sense to water down the non-conference as much as you can water it down, because the SEC games are tough enough. That's the thinking.
Or if you're Greg Sankey, say, okay, wait a minute, this whole, and I said this when it happened, the SEC was really lazy when they said, we're just going to flip-flop the schedules. Instead of the home game, it's an away game next year, whatever. That was lazy as hell for the SEC and really uncharacteristic. And what they should have done is look at the schedule now, because you look at somebody like Texas, oh, so they get a free pass again Texas gets a free pass in the SEC again,
The
and
schedule
Oklahoma gets
imbalance.
hammered?
The schedule imbalance was a very poor job by the SEC office in the current schedule that they did 2 years in a row. There was just too much imbalance with some teams getting off lightly, other teams playing an impossible slate. And what they did to Georgia, I mean, Georgia, hey, give them a ton of credit. They're a great team and a great program, and they weathered the storm, to say the least. But that at Ole Miss, at Alabama, at Texas was ridiculous, especially when Texas, they have a road game, at Vanderbilt, as the Alabama fan chuckles about how easy that
Texas
is.
struggled too.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt
Texas
was onside kick away.
Exactly. But the schedule imbalance is an issue, and it's an issue throughout college football. No question about that.
Couple other quick notes before we get out of here. 4 teams with a bye before they play Alabama, but the caveat to that is 2 of those Alabama also has a bye. Georgia and LSU.
So we're net -2 there.
Yeah, I mean, which is better than what we normally are.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to complain about it. I mean,
yeah, and I mean, the bye can work for or against you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And now we played well. DeBoer seems to do well out of buys. I don't think that's universally the case.
The other thing that's interesting, Alabama doesn't leave the state for its last 5 games.
Yeah, that is really. I saw that's really interesting. 3 home games in a row. That's 3 home games in a row, and then the game at Auburn at the end. It's a tough schedule. And by the way, I've got an article coming out very shortly this morning about the schedule, where I rank the schedule. Luke and I will talk about it probably on the next show, but I rank the schedule from toughest game to easiest game, and that should be out shortly.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.